weekend, we'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free Now looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Wow, that was a fun jam. I'm not usually a chair dancer, but I was a chair dancer for that music. So welcome, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. I'm loving all these comments. So if we have not met yet, my name is Chelly from We Can Make That. And I am trying not to read your comments, so I could just give a quick chat quick. We're going to talk about card making. I am a DIY blogger. I've been a graphic designer freelancing for almost 30 years now, and I love my Cricut because I get to design what I want. And then I started sharing it with all my friends, and then a blog was born. So let's see. Good morning. Hello. Sunny Beach, Florida. Love it. It is -21 where I'm at. So I'm in North Dakota, so I'd love to hear where you guys are from. Go ahead and comment. If you have some sunshine, throw some suns in there for me. We could use all the warmth we can get right now. Okay, so let's jump into some questions. I didn't watch the video yet, so how did she make this shaped edge? So this is the card that I have in the Craft Maker Summit, and the inside, I put a darker piece of paper. You can use two-tone paper, works really well for this when you have paper with, on one color, and then they both would be darker in the inside. So this is cut with the Cricut scan and cut, silhouette, whatever you'd like to cut it with. And it cuts out the shape here. So you'll cut out the baby bottle, you'll cut out the letters, and then the card base is actually cut. If you wanted, if you have a ton of blank cards that, you can buy those boxes of all those pretty colors, and then what do you do with them? You could use the baby bottle and then trace it and cut it on there. But I think it adds a fun layer dimension to it which kind of gives it that different handmade card feel. So I love to add some of those different touches to it so that your card feels more professional. That was one of the things when I first started making them is somebody said to me, this looks handmade. So I always try to do those extra steps. And I don't know if that was an insult or a compliment, but I always try to do those extra steps so that they look a little bit more in depth. They look more professional. Okay, so thank you for that. I don't have a Cricut. Do you have anything I can cut out by hand? So you could print these out if you're handy with Word or something like that. You could put the files in there and cut them. You could also, if you head to Hobby Lobby, you could probably find something like this that you could actually use, or even just to print the file out, trace it, and then kind of make yourself a template. That would work as well. So that would be another way. Your video was lovely. Well, thank you. I know sometimes that design space can be a little intimidating. So I've wanted a Cricut for years, but felt a little intimidated. How was your experience learning SVGs in the machine? Being a graphic designer and working with the digital files, I probably had a little bit less of that intimidation going into it. And it was more of that drive to figure it out and how it worked. So I think it's kind of how you approach everything. If you're going to say, like, I'm going to figure this out, you're going to figure it out. And the other day I was over on Cricut's page and there's, what's it, like 4 million people over there. So if these 4 million people can use it, you can use it too. And it's just a matter of taking your time and going through it step by step. And if you do the first, when you get your machine, you have those tutorials that come with it, and go through those and make their project that you're probably not going to use, or maybe you will use, but it'll at least show you the ins and out of the machine. And then it becomes a little bit easier. So that first thing that's intimidated, I mean, it's just paper. If the card looks dumb, throw it away or give it to somebody you don't like. Just kidding. Okay, I'm not. All right, so let's see. Is there a PDF? I would have to double check. Some of our files do have PDFs and some do not. And the more layers that there are, it becomes a little bit less productive to do it in that format. So sometimes we don't always include them. So I'm sorry I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but I will look into that. I've noticed that PNG files have black backgrounds. A true PNG file should be, make a note here about the PDFs because I have a good memory. It's just short. So a true PNG file should be transparent. So they should not be black. And I wonder when you upload it, and if it is solid black, that should be something when you pull it into Design Space, you could select it with that first selection tool when you jump in there and remove that background. I have found that if you're doing things with layers, it becomes a lot more difficult. And I was going to try to grab an example, but I don't have one next to me. Let's just pretend this is something that you were going to put onto a pencil maker or something like that. Like something like this would be simple without the layers. You could definitely grab the PNG for that. But I always say if you're using files in Design Space, whether you're on a Cricut Silhouette, Scan and Cut, you want the vector file, which is VECTOR. And that is, it's more like clip art, where the other ones are more like a photo. And the difference is the PNGs and the JPEGs have pixels, little squares that make up the colors that we see. And the vector files are more like clip art. So everything that is dark purple is one digital file. Everything that's light purple is one digital file. And that it makes a better quality. So when you're uploading, if you're on Cricut, grab the SVG. If you are on Silhouette, grab the DXF file. And then from there, JPEG is the next best quality. It has more pixels per square inch. So it's going to be a better file when you cut it out. And then lastly, I recommend the PNG as the last option. And sometimes if you save There are quite a few files that you can grab off some of, other sites, and they only offer a PNG. Well, then that's your only choice. And chances are that they know what they're doing and how to save those in a higher resolution so that you get the great, you get the quality that you want. And it all comes down to, the higher the quality, the better the cut. So if you've got a lot of little intricate, detailed things, it's going to be harder, but this is all pretty basic. There's not a lot of really tiny detailed work in that one. Okay. Do you like Cricut over other machines, and why? Because I bought the Cricut first. I've not used the other. I have seriously thought about getting the Silhouette. Part of me wants a Glowforge, but I have no place to put a laser cutter. And if I take over one more room in our house, my husband might start to rein me in, and we don't want that to happen, right? I've kind of taken over another bedroom with all my sewing stuff, so I probably can't take over one more. Although my husband and we have 5 kids together. He has 3, I have 2, and they're all 19 to like 23, 24. So there's no reason I can't take over their rooms, right? They can still have a bed or sleep on the couch when they come back. Yeah, so I would like to test the scan and cut, just to see what the difference is between the Silhouette and the Cricut. But I do think whichever one, it's kind of like phones, Android or Apple, whichever one you learn on is whichever one you really appreciate more or you understand more. So I do believe that they kind of all have the same benefits. Okay, do you find Design Space updates easy to keep up with? I got Design Studio on CD, Craft Room, and now Design Space. If you could use their digital online version, I don't know if the CDs they're probably really outdated, I'm guessing. I've not heard of them on CDs for quite a while, but the new features that are in there with the print and cut and the curved text and those kind of things, I think it's definitely worth upgrading. But I will warn you, every time you're in a hurry to cut something, there's an upgrade. So it takes a little bit to get in there. This is fun. Thanks, guys. Joy says, I have a Joy. Could I use a card mat and hide half the card? I do believe you can. And I just bought the Cricut Joy right there last month. So I am playing with that, and we will have more updates on our website about those and how you use the cards. There's a few cards on our website that are not, I have a couple samples here, like this one, this coffee cup card. This works good for like a gift card holder. Like this one, I think depending on the size, it would be too big. But if you did it smaller, you could make some of these work. But with the baby card, I do believe that you could cut it that way. Where you just wouldn't cut this base. Like you said, you would just hide or delete this in your file, and then you could cut that out. So that might, I've just started playing with the iPad with the Cricut Joy, but that might be something that you might have to jump on your computer and do if you don't have all the tools. Because a lot of times when you use a tablet or a phone, you're using what's considered their app. And sometimes with not just craft, not just Design Space, but there's often things that are different, moved, or maybe even not on the app that you can find them on their website. But if you're on your tablet, you can always go to their website and just not bypass the app that way. Managing storage of your digital files. I actually just created an SVG on our website that says I'm an SVG hoarder. So I don't know if that's maybe what you had in mind, but no. So what I do is I organize all mine by dates, and then I organize them by occasions. So I just do folders in one spot, and then that way I know where it goes. So St. Patrick's Day is always going to be in March. Mother's Day is always going to be in May. But say birthdays, those kind of anniversaries, those kind of things have their own folder. Craft Addiction, Craft Lovers, Coffee, SVGs, those are often ones I love to use. And I usually just make a folder SVGs, I put in all the dates, all the months. So I have 12 folders. And then you could do, military, baby, those kind of things, anniversary, and you can make separate folders, and I put them in there. But to leave that on our website, when you go and download one of the SVGs, you can go back, log into your account as long as you're active, every 2 years at least or more. When you go to your account in the back end, you can see everything that you've downloaded and then re-download it if your computer crashed or you lost a file or you renamed it and can't find it. So that's kind of how I go about organizing them. And we do have a blog post about that too. Good morning, Yolanda. I can't wait to see it. So if you guys have done a card, I would love to see it if you guys want to drop it in the group. When I added some ink around the baby bottle, where did I get that from? So I do a lot with Close to My Heart, because a friend of mine sells it and I love their paper. I love how their paper cuts because it's white in the middle. It's usually like colored and then the edges are white. So that helps add a little bit of dimension when you see kind of definition around the different layers. But you can see over here, I have all the ink that is Close to My Heart ink pads. And then I use the daubers, which are those little sponge things. You can also use, at the dollar store, you can get makeup, eye makeup brushes. Those work well. Even just regular sponges works well. Or let's say this is an ink pad and this is your card. You can take it and just rub the top of your card onto the ink pad, and then that will add some ink to it too. Have I found a single line script font with glyphs similar to Samantha? I have not. I do love that font, so I know exactly. I have a shirt that says I'm silently judging your font choices because I'm a font hoarder as well. And I have recently grabbed a ton of my fonts over from Creative Fabrica. I have found they've got great sales. They've got freebies all the time. And then also, if I find one that is a handwritten one in Design Space, I will just buy it right from Design Space because I know it's readable, I like it, and they're usually pretty inexpensive. Which brand do you like for solid color cardstock? That would probably be the Close to My Heart, which I do a lot of their craft packs. I do a lot of scrapbooking too. So I love those. And like I said, my friend sells it. So then it gives us a reason to hang out and get together. But I also just love how it cuts. I have found that the cheaper the paper, the harder it is to cut sometimes with the Cricut, especially when you're doing those fine, intricate designs or cuts. Linen paper is hard sometimes for those details. And they call it the calendar of it. So when you touch a paper and you see how smooth it is, this is my print. I've been in print, doing graphic design for print, like I said, for the last almost 30 years. So that the smooth finish depends on how the paper's made. So how much is it pressed, and then how it's got that smooth finish over it. If you compare like a very quality planner to maybe like a newspaper print. So that newspaper is more coarse, and then the planner is probably more smooth for writing. So sometimes the smoother the paper, the easier it is to cut. But there is, I also buy a lot of paper at Joann's. I think it's Basil is how you say it. I do like theirs as well too. Is there a newish mat for cardstock? Yes, I have not. Well, I have the little, so there's a new mat with the Cricut where instead of just the regular, I have them on a little command hook back here. So instead of this little mat here, there is a, like another little layer or a little pocket on here. So you can slip the back of the card through there, and then there's almost like a mat on top of it, and it would just cut the top of it. So I've heard awesome things about that, and I have tried to order it twice in different spots, and it was out of stock. But That is also the mat that came with the little Cricut Joy that I just bought, but I haven't used it for a card yet. So, but I do think it's worth the investment. Have you done embossing with the Cricut? Yes. So often when I do the cards, like this one, we cut out the card shape, and then you can see the little crease in the fold. So when you do, I just did a live about this the other day. So this was one of the freebie was the envelope, and you can see this envelope, the edges of it are pretty clean and pretty crisp. And this one, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this on there, but there is, my camera's not great, but you can see there's a little bit of a jagged, and that's because the coating on here is kind of a pearly finish, and that's actually an ink coating or a varnish. And when that is folded, that cracks. So if you put the emboss line in there, it helps with the it helps the paper fold and tells it where it needs to go. So paper can be stretched a little bit. You can't unstretch it without it being seen. So that would, are we out of time already? Almost. So that would be the benefits of scoring, but also sometimes you can add textures. Like you could use it to draw a line across the center of this little lid on there. Like from this little edge over to this little edge, and that would add a little bit of dimension in there too. So you could use that for your scoring tool as well to add some dimension. And then you could even put some ink on there like we did on the edges of the lid. You could do that across there, and it adds a little bit more dimension, makes it feel a little bit more real. The baby bottle edge on the card is the design from the SVG file. So it actually cuts out this part, and then I cut a little darker purple square to put in there. You wouldn't have to, but then that kind of adds a little bit more dimension, makes the baby bottle stand out. So that was part of the SVG file. And the other thing that's cute too, instead of doing the word baby down the side, you could actually put the baby's name if there's room on there. So this is so fun. I'm excited that you guys are all here today. How did you start? I'm not really sure. I have been making cards. I'm not really exactly sure what you're asking, but I've been making cards probably since I got my Cricut, which I had the very first one, which was the little 6x9 that came out. I think it was 11 years ago, maybe 12, 15 years ago now. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like yesterday. And then when you start adding it up and you're thinking about these milestones in your head, you're like, holy cow. Yes. Have you made a card with the joy? I find them very plain. I was wondering if you decorate them. So a lot of times I have found the cards with the Cricut Joy, they cut out so you have your card, you slip it in that mat and you cut out the top of it. And a lot of them just cut out like they cut out the word baby, and then you put a different color behind it and it shines through. But I like to do the layers. And sometimes if you're looking for something more integrate or, detailed, more fun and whimsical, it just requires more layers. So when you're looking for the files, if you pull up scrapbook titles, those kind of things, it'll have, birthday or something like that. And it might have 4 or 5 layers that you can cut them out tiny still on the Cricut Joy. And then it'll give it more of that look. This was one that we did too, where it just printed out on regular paper. And this was a file, and then I just double layered it. And this was one of those pre-cut cards from those boxes. So that would be something that would be Cricut Joy, but this was another one that we did. So again, this is one of those pre-cut cards too. So we just cut this out on top. This is one of them that's on our blog as well. But then these littler files you could use. And this is also really cute to use for a wedding card. So you could do it in the bride's colors. You could just do it in, white and pearls and something like that, and put the bride's date or names or something like that on there too. And then I showed you the coffee cup card. Thanks, Angela. What Cricut is best to start with? I personally have the Maker, and I love the different tools that you can use. It has a rotary scoring tool, and then it also has one that's just a pen that you stick in there, and then you can score things that way. But I say the difference between the Maker and the Maker 3 is if you're doing more bulk items, you would want to do something with the Maker 3 because you can add that attachment that holds like a roll of vinyl instead of using the mats to cut out like a 12 by 12 on and then use it that way. But the different tools, I do love the rotary Maker. The Cricut Joy is simple. I bought it and I took it to a scrapbooking retreat a little while ago, and it was really, I was surprised on how simple that one was to start with. But sometimes I think the price difference, you might as well just go all in, and if you can. But otherwise, the Cricut Joy is a fun one to start with too. Yes, you can use permanent vinyl on paper, wood, any of that kind of stuff. Some of the more details, like the word baby, like for the white, sometimes to use vinyl for that is nice too, because then it's less that you have to try to glue on. So I find that easy. But if your paper is very coarse, like we talked about, and it's not got that smoother finish on it, when you use the sticky transfer to put that on there, it can actually take some of the layers off of the paper. It can stick to the paper where you don't want it to stick to it. What was the name of the stamp ink you used on the baby card? So the ink I used was from Close to My Heart, I believe. Let's see. Looks like we're wrapping up. If you guys have any more questions, when do you use a Cricut versus a die cutter for embellishments? I think it really depends on the design. The thing I like about the Cricut is you can cut them out a little bit easier than, the dies are always the same. So you can you could do different things with some of these. Like this, you could turn these items into, get rid of the back of the card and then just cut a huge baby bottle and a huge weird baby, and you can make a scrapbook page out of them. But you can't resize the dies like that. So which vinyl works best for cards? I would say the adhesive vinyl would probably be the best. And I just started, I don't think the brand so much matters, but don't tell the brands that. I think it really depends on, sometimes it's just finding that perfect color is more, is probably more where my brain's going to go. All right. I think they're telling me to wrap up. So I hope you guys had fun. If you are a Facebook user, if you want to follow us over on Facebook at We Can Make That, and I am on Instagram at iDesign by Chelly, or you can find all that about the little ticker right here on our website too. All right, I was just looking at the comments. It was so fun talking to you guys. Yeah, keep putting comments, and I want to see your cards. So if you've posted any cards that you have made from this one, or when you do get it made, because I know it just dropped today, I would love to see them. So I will see you over in the Facebook group, and I hope you guys have a good morning, and I can't wait to watch the rest of the videos with you guys too. So have a good day.